In Time has reached out to the office of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to ask him if he believes that hurricanes are caused by gay people. The office has replied and told us as of this morning that no, in fact, he is well aware that gay people have nothing to do with hurricanes. It's illegal immigrants. This is Overtime. Hello, and welcome everyone to Overtime. Let's just take a minute to pause there. Yeah, we'll get to that. Thank you all for joining us today. Hurricane Ian is likely to strike the U.S. as early as Wednesday as a Category 4 storm, with Florida already declaring a state of emergency in 24 counties, closing schools and public facilities. St. Peter Clearwater International Airport will close at 1 p.m. tomorrow under a mandatory evacuation order. As many as 300,000 people are expected to be evacuated from Hillsborough County alone. Joe Biden has declared an emergency, authorizing the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA to coordinate relief and assistance as the state deploys over 5,000 National Guardsmen to assist in evacuations. Over 10 inches of rain is expected and a storm surge as much as 10 feet high. The size and scope of the hurricane is expected to be the largest and first direct hit to Tampa Bay in over 100 years. The Conference of Chief Justices, which represents the top state judicial officials in the nation, filed an amicus brief in Moore versus Harper, a voting case that is before the U.S. Supreme Court. Nathan Hetch, Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, called this issue, quote, the biggest federalism issue in a long time, maybe ever, prompting this highly unusual brief from Supreme Court officials across the nation. Moore versus Harper is a case out of North Carolina where the state Supreme Court rejected a highly gerrymandered voting map drawn by the state's legislature. Republican lawmakers have appealed this to the U.S. Supreme Court, asking them to overturn the state Supreme Court's ruling and to restore the gerrymandered map. The U.S. Constitution does actually speak to this. It says, quote, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. That's what it says. That's it. That's all it says. We've discussed this before, and we will no doubt discuss it again when it comes to the attempt to overturn the U.S. election. It actually hinges very much, the January 6th conspiracy hinges very much on that exact part of the U.S. Constitution. The argument that the Republican lawmakers in this case are making is a similar argument. They are arguing that this clause explicitly grants full and exclusive power to the legislation with no judicial oversight whatsoever, saying, quote, the Elections Clause forbids state courts from usurping state legislatures' districting authority. The North Carolina Supreme Court rejected this argument, saying that it was, quote, repugnant to the sovereignty of states, the authority of state constituents, and the independence of state courts, and would produce absurd and dangerous consequences. They argued that the balance of power and checks and balances that you find are the cornerstone of the U.S. Constitution. The founders could not possibly have meant to grant the legislature such broad power with absolutely no process for appeal. The mass exodus from Russia continues as men of military age flee from the partial mobilization of military forces ordered by Vladimir Putin. At least 2,352 people have been detained in Russia over the last 4 days alone for protesting the mobilization. There are unconfirmed reports that in some instances, Putin is conscripting women. In the cases that we've heard about, again, unconfirmed. In at least one case, the woman was a gynecologist whose husband had already been conscripted. She was solely the sole caregiver for her 2 children and was purportedly also conscripted and leaving the children with nobody to care for them. There's also claims that Putin is considering conscripting Ukrainian civilians from occupied regions. Ivan Fedorov, the exiled mayor of Melitopol, has said that the principal purpose for the referendum that they are now undertaking to declare regions of Ukraine actually parts of Russia is actually to conscript the residents of those regions as cannon fodder for the invasion of Ukraine. The Ukrainian government says that Russia's FSB has actually drawn up a list of thousands of people to be mobilized from the region of Zarophenia. I've said this like 3,000 times. You'd think at some point I'd get it, but my brain doesn't match words the way it should. And the Kherson regions. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says that any new Russian territories would have the Kremlin's full protection, but suggested that Russia could in fact conscript from those areas and that Russia would of course use nuclear weapons in defense of those regions. Meanwhile, in Iran, the Mahsa Amini, I think it is correct, I think it's Amini, protests are continuing onto their 10th night and have spread to most of Iran's 31 provinces. The protests started when 22-year-old Mahsa Amini was detained by the, quote, morality police. She suffered what was described as a heart attack while in police custody and fell into a coma, dying in a hospital 3 days later. Her family says she had no pre-existing heart condition and claimed that she was beaten to death. Protesters have been seen cutting off their own hair, burning hijabs, and as well as burning images of their supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini. Yesterday, one of Iran's largest teachers' unions called for a nationwide strike, elevating this to a workers' strike, which is rare and has historical significance in Iran. The previous Iranian revolution was, in fact, started by apologies. Let me see if I can. Was started as a workers' strike. Khomeini has not mentioned the protests. Experts say that they are likely to escalate. Protesters appear to have taken control of parts of the city of Osanayev. I'm probably just going to give up on trying to read foreign words tonight. This is a picture of those protests or video. Iranian government has cut off internet to many areas and or has slowed it down to a snail's pace in others. They have admitted to doing this, saying that doing so was in the nation's best interest and the only way to combat the influence of Western culture, media, and possibly Western intelligence officers who they said were fomenting the riots and dissent amongst the people. At least 24 people have been killed. A little hard to know how many, but there are reports that police have been firing with live ammunition into the crowds. Again, while Khomeini has not mentioned the protests, Iran's president has said that he will end them and suggested he would do so brutally if he was left with no other means. Obviously, we'll stay on top of that. Representative Liz Cheney said in an interview at the Texas Tribune Festival that, quote, "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Donald Trump is not the nominee, and if he is the nominee, I won't be a Republican." She lost her primary in August due to discontent over her co-chairing the January 6th committee, and last year she was removed as the third-ranking Republican in the House after voting to impeach Donald Trump for his conduct on January 6th. It is hypothesized that she is considering a run now as an independent for president. She's smart enough to realize that as an independent, she has zero, and I mean no chance for any number of reasons that we've discussed on a few occasions and are not going to get into now. However, as an independent, it is likely that she, instead of winning, she would make opposing Trump her sole goal, and that she might be able to successfully draw enough Republicans off that Trump would not have a shot at winning the nomination. So this will be the first time I can think of somebody running as an independent exclusively for the goal of sabotaging somebody else's campaign. Trump, meanwhile, in an interview with Maggie Haberman from the New York Times, said when asked why he ran for president, he said, quote, "The question I get asked more often than any other is, if I had to do it again, would I have done it? The answer is, yeah, I think so, because, well, here's the way I look at it. I have so many rich friends and nobody knows who they are," suggesting that the only reason he would consider running for president is for the fame. Italy has elected its first female prime minister, It's going to be one of those nights. Miss Maloney. I will go with that. Apologies. She has, unfortunately, several other distinctions than just being the first female prime minister. Her political alliance includes Matteo Salvini's far-right League. The League is what it's actually called. That I can tell, it's not even called the League. It's just League. But they are far right. And Berlusconi's center-right Forza Italia. This voting bloc gives her roughly 114 seats in the Senate, 10 more than is needed for a majority. She was an MSI militant supporting the neo-fascist Italian socialist movement founded in 1946 by Mussolini's chief of staff. She is a known isolationist, known for anti-immigration and anti-EU rhetoric, and is expected at this point to form the single most right-wing government Italy has seen since World War II. Ron DeSantis is now facing legal troubles on multiple fronts. Andrew Warren, a Florida state prosecutor who was suspended by DeSantis for saying he would not enforce the abortion ban or prosecute providers of gender transition treatment, has won a legal victory when a judge refused to throw out his suit, claiming abuse of power and unlawful suspension against the governor. The governor is also facing a class action lawsuit for flying roughly 50 migrants from Texas to Martha's Vineyard without food, shelter, or resources, and a Miami state senator is now suing DeSantis for violating the budget laws, using local funds for that maneuver. Law enforcement in Texas, Massachusetts, and Florida are also investigating whether any state or federal laws were broken in the move, with one law enforcement official in Texas saying, quote, "It is highly probable that he has broken the law." 20-year-old Yaren Rios Gonzalez was pulled over by police on suspicion of carrying a weapon in a road rage incident. She was cuffed and placed in the back of a squad car while police searched her car for, let's grab that. While police searched her car for a weapon, she began screaming for help when she noticed that the police car that she was in the back of was stopped on a train tracks and a train was coming. This is the body cam footage of that arrest.
What's going on? No one else is in the truck, sir. Can I please get my cell phone? Ma'am, what's going on?
I'll tell you in a second. Take a seat.
I'm so confused. Can I get my cell phone?
I will get your cell phone for you. Take a seat. Toss it out the window?
She could have out that window, but who is that? Hart?
No, that's Tom check. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Stay back!
Dispatch 346. Did a medical emergency. The suspect was in the vehicle that was hit by the train.
Watch the fence.
All right, now that, let's see, let's make sure I wanted to get the, all right, there's no audio on this. This is them pulling over the, I missed it. I don't know if that one actually had the police car hit. The car was struck and thrown approximately 20 feet with her in the back. She suffered 9 broken ribs, a broken arm, broken teeth, head, back, and leg injuries. She is expected to survive. She has regained consciousness and reported that she had, in fact, seen it and was screaming to be let out. There's no explanation for why the officer stopped on the tracks. She had seen the tracks parked on the other side. The officers parked immediately behind her. There was no weapon found. There was no evidence that she had, in fact, committed any crime.
Did you toss anything?
She could have, because it took her a long time to pull over. She could have, because when I was behind her, she was driving slow enough.
Yeah.
So she could have tossed something, but I lit her up.
Toss it out the window?
She could have out that window, but who is that? Hart? Who is
No,
that?
that's Tom check. Oh shit!
Hey, was she in there? Was she in there? Was she in there? Was she in there?
Oh my God! Yes, she was.
Was she in there? Was she in there?
She was in there.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Dispatch Platinum 912, start medical, please. My car's just been hit by the train.
Copy.
Motherfucker.
Oh God.
Let's go over there.
And the officers have been put on paid administrative leave pending an investigation. Last, and I included this, well, an interesting story. Edward Hardy has won the 2022 UMKC Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Open Championship. He attended a low-key jiu-jitsu championship last month and was popular and asked if he would come back, and he promised to attend the this event. The Open Championship event here. However, he wasn't anticipated. Nobody actually thought he would show up, and he left competitors and audience members stunned when, in fact, he did arrive. He dominated the qualifying stages and dominated his division before eventually taking home the gold medal. Edward Hardy is not commonly known by his real name, but is known to most people by his stage name, actor Tom Hardy, famous for roles in Mad Max, Venom, Inception, and The Dark Knight. He won the 2022 UMKC Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championship and has said he will be returning next year. And that is the news for this week. Thank you all for joining us for this rundown. I'm going to go check the live chat a little bit. Sinister Porpoise, $5. Once again, Sinister, thank you so much for your continued support. We sincerely appreciate it. Pennsylvania's Central York School District banned girls who code books in 2020. It was overturned 10 months later by activists. Reason CRT. So Porpoise had sent me some articles on this, and we didn't have time to get into it for tonight's show. We were already booking up most of what we were going to discuss tonight. It's book banning is, for me, having taught English and being a writer, is a sensitive subject, and being a liberal, it's a sensitive subject. Apparently, the grounds that they gave for any number of books that they banned was that they have to balance the education of children with, I don't think they'd used the word woke, but they had said liberal activism. And it was, that I can tell, the Girls Who Code book was simply a book about four girls who form friendship over the fact that they write code. And as someone who has also taught computer science and found that many women are not interested in it because they assume it's a guy thing, I will say books like that are important. So I unfortunately don't know very much about the ban. Sinister had sent me some materials on it, and I was able to review some of it before the show, though not as much as I would have liked to. But thank you very much for that super chat and for bringing that up. I appreciate it. I think that's an important topic. Yeah, the reason I liked that about Tom Hardy was because it's nice to see people who are talented in one area showing an interest and talent in others. And, he went down there, got the gold medal in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and everybody said, he earned it. And he clearly had a great deal of skill, physical and mental discipline. And it was nice to see that he had other talents. So, Jason Torn, the U.S. police state, the American police state. Yeah, I do think we need to do a show on that. Mouty, how's the bass coming? Very low. Yeah. Am I able to ban people from this interface? Well, just wondering. Just casual thought. Rosa Italia, yeah, that's listen. I not. I'm a little surprised I can put two sentences together. So, Sinister Porpoise, through the magic of solipsism, I have paid everyone's bills, but through the same magic, you are all injured your knee by misjudging a step at the local bar. Yeah, I paid my bills today. What I did was I thought about paying them, and therefore they're all paid. It's the Trump method of bill payments. I'm sure the IRS will have no problem with that. All right, I think that just about covers it. Not if they have a wrench. Oh dear. Yeah, well, Mouty doesn't have a wrench, and that's deliberate. All right, and we actually have, just as we wrap this up, we have a tweets. So this hurricane is going to be big. I have a suspicion we're going to be covering elements of it live. I think it's going to be that big. A 10-foot surge in Florida is large, and then 10 inches of flooding on top of that. Let's see. They've got, why don't I snag that? I think that's worthwhile. Thank you, Titan. I try to snag that. Why is that no longer available? There it is. All right. One of the interesting things is we work a lot in social media, and we try to grab footage as rapidly as possible, and it's we try to grab it quickly because sometimes we get good footage and it goes down moments later. So it's always hard to tell. So what this is from, this is storm drains in downtown Miami, where it hasn't even passed over Cuba, and this is downtown Miami. They're still 2 days out from getting hit, is my understanding. And this is a storm drain. Water is already overwhelming the drainage system in Miami. Let's, there we go. So that was taken just hours ago, downtown Miami. They haven't even gotten hit yet. I can't stress this enough, and we did the joke at the beginning, probably in poor taste, but DeSantis is amongst my least favorite people walking the earth today. Having said that, this is obviously extraordinarily serious. DeSantis appears to be taking this very seriously. Biden is taking this seriously. If you are anywhere in the vicinity of this, please follow the orders of your local government, especially evacuation orders. This, I think, is going to be extremely serious. And as I said, this threatens to be a 1 in 100-year storm striking Florida. It's extraordinarily serious already. Like one county alone, they're evacuating 300,000 people. So my suspicion is we're going to be following this. We'll let you guys know. Come join us on the Discord. That's the easiest way to figure out what our schedule is and what shows we're going to be covering. And since we really are a community-sourced news organization, it's a great way to contribute to the show if you're interested. You can also become a member, and you can support us on Patreon. We have a number of members, and we sincerely appreciate that support. We couldn't do this without that support. One reason is because we get demonetized. We get demonetized a lot. And it's unfortunate that you can't have adult content and adult content. No, I'm not talking about OnlyFans. I'm talking about having serious conversations about serious topics, which we do all the time, but our shows get demonetized quite regularly for that reason. So it's super chats, it's people who become members, and it's people who join the Patreon who really support this show, and we appreciate it. We couldn't do this without it. So, and it's the people who don't do that, but nonetheless come to our Discord and find other ways to contribute. Thank you to all of you. And like I said, I am predicting a number of very long weeks coming up. The Supreme Court starts its next session October 3rd. It promises to be pretty close to, if not as controversial as the last one, depending on how they rule in the Moore case that we discussed earlier. That could very drastically limit your rights as an American in regards to voting, and limit your ability to appeal any decisions past the state legislature. They get to choose, end of discussion. So there's a few other cases that we talked about. We do believe that there's going to be a case coming before the Supreme Court. There's a couple that have been submitted to the Supreme Court. They haven't accepted any that we're aware of yet, that will ask the question whether or not an unborn fetus is a citizen of the United States with all of the rights and protections of citizenship at the moment of conception. We believe that a case like that will be accepted shortly. We don't know if it will be in this term, but my suspicion is they're trying for it. And there's a lot going on. So Russia, Iran, picket. We'll be keeping on top of it. So thank you all again for joining us, and we will be seeing you shortly, and or on the Discord. Good night.